Why aren't user stories estimated in hours or days? Because it doesn't work. That would be the short answer. More realistically, we're going to get asked, why don't we estimate user stories in hours or days? Because we've always done that, and invariably the people who think that works are the ones interviewing. Well, the reason that we've stepped away from it is, well, there's a few reasons. One, it's really hard, okay, to estimate in hours. Okay, requires us to understand how long something took previously, and we can't even tell you that once we've finished it unless we've deliberately tracked it. So comparing it to previous work that took X amount of time doesn't help us because we don't actually know whether X is true or not. We've got optimism biases, we've got fundamental attribution biases, we've got all of these things going on in our head that limit our ability to refer to things and to see the world as it is rather than as we perceive. So when we estimate in hours based on previous information, we're working off a flawed pattern, and therefore the estimate's flawed. Okay. But let's combine that with sticking the word hours at the end. It feels like it should be right. It feels like you're experts, you're saying that took you 2 hours, you're saying this will take you 2 hours, it should be 2 hours. That estimate, as if by magic, has turned into a guarantee. You're now going to be held to it being 2 hours. And that's a problem because you don't know. You don't know whether that took you 2 hours, and are we talking 2 hours elapsed or 2 hours of effort? Okay. So that's a third point to bring into the mix. When you say how long it's going to take, you may say, when I get started, it is going to take this long. And you may know, you may have a good idea. I did it. I always remember as a developer, and I had an ops director appear, and she said, John, how long will it take to fix this? And I looked at it, and I can't remember the times, but it was about 2 hours. I looked at it, I thought, it'll take me a couple of hours to do. Pretty vague, in my opinion. And she heard 2 hours, and she went away, and she was quite happy with that answer. I then went into a meeting. With that very same ops director for over an hour and a half. Got back to my desk, and not long after I got to my desk, there she was, appeared. Have you finished? Well, no, I haven't even started, but you said it'd be 2 hours. Yeah, but I didn't mean from now it'll be 2 hours, which is what she'd heard. 2 hours elapsed. I meant when I get to it in this very long list of things that I need to do, it will take me about 2 hours, and that might be next week. She'd promised the client already, because in her world, when I said 2 hours, it was 2 hours from now. In my world, it was 2 hours from when I start. So the communication becomes very fuzzy. You have to start putting caveats around everything. Okay? Not because anybody's doing a bad job, but because they're operating from their perspective. Okay? So we can't estimate very well in hours. We use them to mean many things. But also, as a team, we're aiming to improve. We're aiming to be better sprint after sprint after sprint. And in doing so, we know our estimates are now wrong because in some aspects of the product we're going to have improved and in others we're not. We just don't know which bits. So now, to keep our estimates up to date in hours, we need to go back through and reconsider, have we improved in that aspect or not, for every single item. So every time round the loop, we're forcing a complete reassessment of our backlog. Some teams may skim it, some teams will do it diligently, but they're all going to spend some time working on estimating stuff that they've already estimated to update it to their current ability rather than delivering a product. And that's just waste because they could be delivering a product. So it's not a helpful thing. And the last one is the time changes. Because we are improving, because we are getting better, the time changes. So the hours that it's going to take changes, but the effort doesn't. So it makes more sense to step away from hours just because of what we know about the work, about how our brains work, about how the environments we work in function. If we estimate the effort involved, if we say instead of it will take us 5 hours, we're going to say, oh, it's about 2 points. And what do you mean by that? Well, it's about the same effort as that 2-point story and that one and that one. And it's about twice that one, and it's somewhere in the region of half the effort of that 5. Okay. Well, how long is it going to take? Well, we can derive the time from that, but what we know is even if we get faster, the total effort involved in delivering that one item isn't going to particularly change. The way that I've fallen today to explaining that is physics. It's weightlifting. Okay? You've got 100 kilos on your back. You need to sit down and stand up again. Good old-fashioned squat. It's going to take you a certain amount of effort. Now, you may be able to squat 100 kilos, you may not. But you're going to be able to calculate reasonably accurately, using simple principles of physics, how much effort based on your height. What's the energy involved in moving that weight through that distance? If we pick that up and we give that 100 kilo weight to a strong man, to a power lifter, to one of these Goliaths that appears on World's Strongest Man, and ask them to do it, it's going to take the same amount of effort. Okay, it's going to take the same energy, give or take, because I suspect they're also huge. So probably more for them because they're big guys. But not significantly more. It's going to take roughly the same amount of effort. Their bodies have adapted to moving heavy weights. They will find it much easier because they have far more capacity to do it. But it will still take the same effort on their part. They can just do a lot more of it. So whereas I may struggle with 100 kilos, somebody like Eddie Hall, I suspect he could do it while tying his shoelaces or something. It's not going to bother him in the slightest. Okay? Not because the weight gets lighter, but because he's trained to do it. We're doing the same thing with our teams. As the developers improve, their ability to operate on this product, in these technologies, in this environment improves. Their capacity increases. So instead of having to change estimates, we just take more in because we're able to take more effort into the sprint. So you can estimate in hours. There is nothing to stop you. It has many, many weird behaviours, some of which I've not mentioned. It doesn't play to our strengths. We're brilliant at relative estimation. We suck at absolute estimation. Okay? You can do it. Some companies, they do it, they're happy. That's great. It's not personally what I want to do, but it works for them. The reason that we go to story points is it harnesses our better understanding of how we build products, of how we work as human beings in complex environments. Okay? So that's why I would steer away from hours, because it has some weird tendencies, it has some weird behaviours. It can create more work if you're not careful. Okay? Whereas story points, as weird as they may seem on first glance, become much easier to work with over time as that team improves. If you've got to this point in the video, I hope you've enjoyed it. If so, a like would be appreciated. If you want to hear more from me, more answers to questions that maybe you've got in the Agile world, please subscribe to the channel. And if you've got a question that you really want answered, drop it in the comments. I promise we'll get around to it. Thank you.